Plasticon Devastation Marathon. This is the second of the lot of toys I am reviewing. So let's get right on to it. To Generation 1 Devastator. Here's G1 Devastator in his box. It's the box. Hey guys, it's the box. Now a lot of you guys out there, eagle-eye viewers, probably noticed a purple. Yes, sorry you got an expansion pack installed. This thing is awesome. But we're going to be also reviewing, BAM! The Transbots Expansion Pack! The year is 1985. And coming out of the Generation 1 line comes Generation 1 Devastator, also known as the Constructicons. This fleet of construction vehicles absolutely screams what the 80s was all about. Bright colors, and most vehicles, although most people out there don't know this, construction-wise, were usually in a more loud scheme. Taking a look at the first one comes Mixmaster. Mixmaster is a little mixing cement truck. It's got quite a bit of detail pulled out and absolutely looks divine in these colors, especially with the little purple add-on kit to give us a little purple barrel. This transformation is easy as pie. It's extremely simple transforming these guys, and it's just satisfying how fast they transform. But once you get Mixmaster in his little robot mode, it's clear that he is just a little blockhead. Although the block aesthetic looks really cool, especially for this little guy. Next in the line comes Scrapper. Yes, the little loader. This loading / digging vehicle absolutely carries itself very well. It does fit the very vintage vibe of all these construction vehicles, but yet it still has some kind of charm. As you go to transform this guy, it's clear and straightforward. There isn't any really tricks to transforming this guy whatsoever. And after you get them putting him into his robot form, it's clear that he has got this stoic kind of look. He actually looks like a leader because he is the leader of the Constructicons. Moving on to the next one comes Long Haul. Long Haul is a dump truck, a very vintage dump truck. Although you don't really see many out there that look like this as a dual axle, this thing straight up looks like a little Tonka toy. It actually has a dumping bed, and it really works very, very well, just in every sense of what a dump truck should do. When you go into his transformation, he actually has a little more intuitive kind of transformation. I just like the idea that how you kind of pull the arms out and untuck his little fists. This is a little touch that Hasbro didn't really need to add, but they did. Next one in the line comes Hook. Hook is this crazy crane. Although a crane device really wouldn't look exactly like this nowadays, this is what they actually looked like back during the 70s and 80s. It has a very nice aesthetic. It works very well as a toy crane should. But as you transform him, it's clear that there's a lot going on with this guy. Although a lot of folks out there that tend to get this guy break the front portion. Mainly because they don't know that when you push it out, it actually almost has an automorph and wants to slide outward. The key to transform this guy the correct way is to make sure whenever you pull the leg portion out on the sliding device that's in between, to make sure it's pulled out completely before you try moving them. Otherwise you will break off leg. But after you get done transforming him, clearly he is one of the coolest little robots. He actually has a really nice aesthetic, and I kind of like the idea that he has this gigantic crane still stuck to his back. Moving on to another digging vehicle is our Excavator, also known as Scavenger. Scavenger is a really nice looking excavator. There isn't much change throughout the years with these construction vehicles, but this thing absolutely screams what they were during the 70s and 80s. Big gigantic blocks, just stuck with a shovel thingy on the front, and then just moves around and like picks up dirt. But when you go into his transformation, you find out that he actually has a little more about him, with the spinning foot gimmick on top of just the simple fact that his legs fold out instead of just being like a block that you flip up. But after you get him into robot mode, he's actually pretty nice. I do like this guy a lot, although some folks really don't care for his aesthetic. I still think he's really neat. Last, but definitely not least, comes Bone Crusher. Most people are really familiar with this name from the movies that Michael Bay put out. But Bone Crusher was originally a bulldozer. This is a really, really nice bulldozer. He actually has a very vintage vibe with the gigantic open cab, and just, it looks cute, but tough and blocky, and what these things should look like. But when you go into transforming him, he actually has a little more to him. Much like Scavenger, he actually has the flipping out foot gimmick, on top of the simple fact of the arms happen to kind of be pushed out and then rotated. Although he tends to have a little more articulation than the rest, he actually looks really cool. I did dig the idea that the entire bucket just becomes the chest of the robot. When you get the entire ensemble together, it's clear that these guys fit. And these guys would absolutely be what you would need to construct any kind of building or road or city or whatever you want. But these guys don't just turn into little robots, they turn into the mighty Devastator. So let's get on to that. As you start putting this guy together, it's clear that you just alter some of their modes. There's not much you have to alter on each mode, but it's actually kind of clear and concise. But putting on the Transbot set versus using the old waist portion and such, this actually gives him a little more added articulation. Although this set has its problems, they can be fixed very, very easily, especially if you're a customizer. If you have the ability to use a spanner and a little bit of time and patience and a little bit of clear nail polish, you can normally tighten up quite a few of the joints. But as you start putting on the arms will kind of give you a little bit of a difficulty. On mine, I actually had to drill out the arms slightly in order to make them fit a little snug around the little ports coming off of Scavenger and Bone Crusher. Although throughout the years they've gotten loose, I'm just going to end up having to beef them up with some more of that good old clear nail polish. The great thing about this thing is the center waist portion. I like the idea that the waist portion gives him a waist articulation. Although most folks out there really don't care for this set because it does add a lot of articulation that an already very difficult standing robot has. It's just very difficult to say that it's not cool. I do like the idea that it did add a ball joint where you actually have to pop the head back on for the Devastator mode, but it's kind of neat. And the great thing about it is the LED. They put a little LED inside his eyeballs so that way it glows, and it's kind of nice. Although this is a little added touch that really didn't need to be necessarily brought into the add-on kit, it's pretty cool. I do know for a fact some folks have issues with the fingers on these guys, but I really haven't had any issues whatsoever with the fingers. Although they are all are articulated, I tend to just not move them around much, because I mean, to be honest, how often are you going to try to pose a Generation 1 toy without it falling over? But as far as I'm concerned, this is the masterpiece of Devastator to me. This actually filled in every single solitary portion of the kit and really made it a nice toy over the years. I do like the idea that another company out there such as Crazy Debbie came out with the original setup, but you know, Transbots did a pretty good job about trying to bulk it all and throw it all in one little box. I do know there's another one out there made by Junkion Blacksmith that I have yet to get my hands on. In the future, I guess I will. But anyhow, just for a little size comparison, here's a little Generation 2 Gold Bumblebee for you. Well, this has been Plasticon, and this has been yet another Devastation review. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out, you guys.